Well, African Affairs Analyst Nixon Katembo is on Skype to share his thoughts on this story. Nixon, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Peter, and thanks for having me.
All right, so the DRC celebrated independence last week. King Philippe expressed regret about what happened during the colonial era with his ancestor. And I just wonder, how have the Congolese been reacting? Because this is the first time, I guess, that a reigning monarch has actually acknowledged the atrocities.
Well, Peter, while that acknowledgement is well received by the Congolese people, however, I need to point two things here. Discourses matter. And when you're analyzing discourse, you have to understand the context and the intention of the words that are said. If you look at the word regret, you have to look at the word we apologize or we acknowledge that we have done wrong. But regret is just like we've done something, but we cannot go back to that particular history. Hence, do we have to contextualize the way in which King Philippe writes versus the atrocity that the Congolese faced at the time? And I think this is where people are gearing and pushing to say, no, Belgium have to do more than just writing a letter of regret to the Congolese people. And that's right, given the history of the Congolese and what the country went through under King Leopold, who is the great-grandfather of the current king of Belgium. And suffice to say that it comes not only at the time when the world is asking tough questions about colonialism and racism, but also looking at the current political situation which is unfolding in the Democratic Republic of Congo, including the security situation in the East and all over the country. You would recall, Peter, that Belgium have been instrumental since the 1960s. Up until today, it still play a major role in the politics of the country. And when you get to the international geopolitics, most of the forces actually that play out in the Congo in terms of economic looting of the resources of that country have to have a say and negotiations with Belgium, be it France, be it the United States or the Kingdom. All diplomatic relations and all behind-the-scene diplomacy that happen within the Congo, Belgium have a say in it. And that's where I think most of the Congolese people would want to see Belgium doing more, not just a letter of regret.
Why do you think it's come now, and that this has been an issue for centuries? What is it about this time? Is it the significance of the independence 60th milestone? What do you think has motivated the king to speak now?
I think what motivated the king now is just following a bandwagon after the death of George Floyd, as your reporter mentioned. I don't think that this is a genuine regret that comes out of what the king feel about what Belgium did at the time in the Congo, but rather the movement that is actually even growing in Belgium itself, where statues were, defaced in Belgium, where people in Belgium on both sides, not just black Africans of descent, calling for more accountability and more accountability in terms of what the colonial master did in the Congo, but also just understanding the nature of the politics within Belgium right now. in relation to the Congo. So to me, it's not just a genuine, but just a way of, alleviating and the calls that there should be more change towards what transpired during colonialism in the Congo.
All right, we're hearing protesters talk about reparations, but I suppose, the king, King Philippe, is a ceremonial king, unlike his great-grandfather Leopold, who was an absolute ruler. There's not much that the king can do. Do you think that the Belgian authorities perhaps should be taking a lead in this and not the king?
Well, the king can be a leading way, even though he's a ceremonial leader, but he has a greater role in having an influence in what authorities are doing in Belgium. And you would recall that successive foreign ministers in Belgium, including Louis Michel and the son, they have had a much stake in the politics of the Congo. So authorities in Belgium are much well aware of what is happening, even though they are silent on the current call for reparations. But they are keenly aware of what is happening. If you look at the relationship that Congo have had with Belgium in the recent days, there has been a training of military under the former President Joseph Kabila, of which they were removed after the call for the third term and for Kabila to state clearly that he will go. So those are some of the issues that authorities in Belgium are well aware of. As to pronounce themselves on when they are going to take a lead on this whole issue of making sure that the evils of the past that were done during colonialism are well spoken about and history is rewritten, I think that's what is more important at this time. So much time have passed. History have told in different ways. Belgium citizens have been told different stories and different analysis of what transpired in the Congo. Some of them have gone an extra length of questioning even the government line of story of really what happened in the Congo. And I think it's up now to the Belgian authority to come clean and understand that what the Congo is going through now, and at length the Greater Lakes region, is Belgium owing to its colonial past in those countries.
All right, so now that this stone has been turned and the can of worms been opened with this acknowledgement of the atrocities, how do you see diplomatic relations between Belgium and the DRC going forward? It's been said now, it's out there, they can't ignore it surely.
Well, I don't see any much change in the diplomatic relations between the Congo and Belgium. As I said earlier, much of the politics, the behind-the-scene diplomatic core issues that happen in the Congo are always decided in Belgium. You would recall that in the past elections, opposition leaders had to go to Belgium and afterwards go to Geneva to discuss issues mostly led by Belgian politicians. And if that is going to change, it's up to the elite in the Congo to stamp the authority, to stamp their feet down and say, no, we want answers. We want really concrete reparation for the evils that were done to our forefathers during colonialism. And if that is the case, then I would envision a change in diplomatic relations between the two countries. But for now, as I've just said, I don't see any much of change coming out of this.
Do you think that this might trigger something in other parts of the continent? I mean, I think of what happened to the Herero in Namibia. I think of what happened to the Mau Mau in Kenya. Do you think that this conversation will escalate to other countries now that we have one monarch in Europe who's acknowledged that colonialism and colonial powers did an awful lot wrong during colonial times here?
I think it will be very interesting if debates can be open in earnest and honestly on what really transpired during colonialism, be it in English-speaking countries and most of the countries such as East Africa. I mean, Germany's role in Dutch East Africa, this I mean the likes of Tanzania, Burundi and Rwanda, when they were still under the Germans before the World War I defeat. You remember Rwanda and Burundi were passed to the tutelage of Belgium by the trustee council after Germany was defeated in the First World War. So these are kind of conversations that we need to begin to have in honesty, and historians in the continent have to be at the forefront of leading these discussions of bringing the two worlds together, and for the former colonial masters to understand the wrong really that they did to the African continent and coming to the patent seeking on how they are going to remedy the situation in terms of reparation, not just about acknowledging that we did wrong or writing letters of regret, but do meaningful reparations to the atrocity that were done to the African people. You've cited the Herero and Nama in Namibia, the Mau Mau in Kenya, and many other issues on the parts of the continent.
All right, mon frère, that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much indeed, as always, talking to you and your valuable insights about what's happening in your country and often what's happening across the continent. Thank you so much. À bientôt.
Merci, à bientôt.
All right, that was Nixon Katembo, who's giving us his take on King Philippe's apology that his great-grandfather Leopold did in the colonial era during the DRC in Congo at the time.